Hi, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about all the books I read during the month of May. So I had a pretty decent reading month. I finished 9 books in total. A majority of them are fantasy or sci-fi, and we do have one nonfiction. So I think we're going to divide this video into books that are written by Ilona Andrews and books that were not written by Ilona Andrews, because there is a few of them. So I did film a new releases vlog, and you will see some of these in that vlog. So if you want more thoughts, feel free to go watch that vlog, skim through that vlog, just to get my opinions right at that moment. But I loved This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews. I read this book in that vlog, absolutely adored this. This was so fun. This was so me. 5 out of 5 stars. This is officially my favorite book of the year so far. I don't know who's gonna top it, if you can even top this. I really enjoyed this. In this book we follow our main character Maggie, who is a super fan of this incomplete grim dark fantasy series, and she wakes up one day and immediately realizes that she's been transported into her favorite fantasy series. She wakes up in a gutter. She's broke. She has no clothes on. She doesn't know how she got there, and honestly this book isn't really about her even trying to get back. She quickly decides that she wants to stay in this fantasy world and help out her favorite characters from their untimely demise. It's a grimdark series that she's been transported into, so a lot of them are either betrayed or killed, what have you, and this is her journey to make something of herself as well, to become a player in this grimdark fantasy series with a lot of political leanings. I really enjoyed Maggie as a character. I love the way that the plot progressed. It felt so quick, it was a fast progression, but it also felt like the authors gave us time to really sit with a lot of the things that were happening in this book. Also with Ilona Andrews, the romance is so good. I always love Ilona Andrews romantic side plot. I thought this was so fun. I talked about this one a lot on this channel, but even more so on TikTok. I don't know what I can say about this that I haven't already said before, but this was so good. I need the second book right now. After I had finished reading that, I needed to read more Ilona Andrews. I needed something else to cure the hangover, so I picked up Clean Sweep. This is the first book in the Innkeeper Chronicles series. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. In the series we follow a character named Deanna who runs an inn in the Austin area, but this inn is very unique. For one, it has a little bit of sentience. It can feel Deanna's emotions and what she wants, and it can kind of move and adjust to what she the specifications of what she wants. But this is a type of inn that only allows intergalactic guests to stay at, so there's aliens in this series as well. It's a bit fantastical and sci-fi as well. In this first book we're obviously introduced to the characters, the setting, and all that kind of stuff, but there's a dangerous alien in the neighborhood that is hurting other people, so Deanna needs to get to the bottom of it because it hurt her business. I feel that every review that I would give for an Ilona Andrews book would just be, this was so fun, this was so exciting. But this author duo is so for me, they're my comfort author duo. I do think Deanna is really shaping up to be such a strong female character, which I know that sentence has been used a lot to describe women in media, but I do really appreciate how sure and how confident Ilona Andrews' female main characters typically tend to be, even if they're all very different. Kate Daniels is very different than Maggie, very different than Deanna here. So really fun, really enjoyable. And since we are on the subject of the Innkeeper Chronicles, I did also continue on and read the second book in the series. I think it was called Sweep in Peace. I didn't love this one as much as the first book. I think the reason why I really liked the first book was because it had that veneer of a brand new series and everything's so fun and exciting, and it still is fun and exciting, but I was already kind of used to some of the characters and some of the elements of this world. One thing that I didn't mention is that Deanna's parents were also innkeepers, but they went missing. Their inn just disappeared one day with them, with it, and Deanna never found out what happened to her parents. So I think that's going to be a thread that we're going to follow throughout the series, as well as the fun monster of the week type scenario that we've been getting so far. Again, very fun, very exciting. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars, but I still had that really fun, exciting feeling while reading this. We're seeing a particular romance grow here. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I do really like Ilona Andrews's romances. There's something so real about them and so charming and really engaging. Sometimes when I read other books that have like a romantic subplot, I don't care. They're not bad, I just really don't care, but I care about these couples. I don't know how they do it, but they can do it really well. Let's talk about my nonfiction of the month. I did read pretty quickly One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This by Omar Akkad. This is a nonfiction that I knew was going to be more of a memoir. That's what everyone's been saying about this. Very popular book. This author is a journalist and he's also written fiction before. This mostly focuses on the author's discontent and how he's breaking up with the West, or at least Western ideals that they claim to have. He calls out a lot of the hypocrisy in the politics here, the people, whether they be left or right leaning. Most of this focuses on Palestine and Gaza, but he's been a journalist for a while, so he briefly does touch on like the war on terror in the Middle East. He talks about like boycotts, Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. There were really strong passages in this book. I think that was the part that I really appreciated the most, how well he was able to put into words the feelings that at least I have when it comes to how the powers that be are dealing with a very obvious genocide, and how certain things that we like claim to love and support just don't apply to people from the Middle East or just brown people in general, immigrants, what have you. I don't think I necessarily learned anything from this, maybe just some information that I didn't know. Like he calls out certain individuals by name, not a ton, but I think this was mostly like a cathartic read for me, having someone to put into words what I'm feeling about a lot of stuff happening politically in this country. I think this is my first like official 5-star nonfiction that I've ever read. I appreciate all the other nonfiction that I've read, but I don't know what I look for when I want a 5-star read, and this is it. Strangely enough, what makes me give a fiction book 5 stars is that emotional engagement, and I guess that's also what I need in a nonfiction to get me emotionally engaged in a book, and this is a very emotional subject. I did read one graphic novel, and that was Bitch Planet Volume 2 by Kelly Sue DeConnick. This graphic novel series focuses on this prison that is on a different planet, and the women that are sent to this prison are seen as like non-conforming, and some of the crimes that they've been accused of is like stuff like murder and assault, but also things like being too sexual or something. It's a dystopian, and in this volume we mostly focused on some of the characters that are housed in a different unit of Bitch Planet, and there are a lot of trans characters, so I really appreciated that inclusion. It would have felt kind of empty, or like we were kind of dancing around a subject if we were talking about non-conforming women, if we didn't include trans people. But we also see a little bit of a rebellion brewing here. Really fun, really exciting, again very gritty but also funny, and the art style as always is impeccable. We're kind of jumping around all the books that I read this month. There's like no rhyme or reason here. I did read Operation Bounce House in that new releases vlog, and I gave this one 4 stars. I talked about how surprised I was that I really enjoyed this. I was worried that I wasn't going to mesh well with Matt Dinniman's humor or writing. He seems the type of author to have like a very distinct voice or sense of humor. This book is about a group of people that have been living on a different planet for quite some time, like 3 or 4 generations, and a company that has been working with like the Earth government has decided to start an eviction process, which is essentially a genocide. They are planning to kill off a majority of the people who have been terraforming this planet called New Sonora. And the way that this company is planning to evict the locals of this planet is to hire out streamers and gamers to operate these giant mechs and kill people. I was worried that the author's humor was going to override these themes, that there was going to kind of take away from it in some way, but I do think that the author did a good job of showcasing this in this really like fun, action-packed standalone. There were some elements that were just like not to my taste, and I do think that the ending had some flaws when it comes to things being a little too convenient for our main character at the end. But overall I think this was a solid standalone sci-fi, very topical. Like I was thinking about Gaza and Palestine while reading this. It was kind of hard not to. I think this is a good place to start if you are on the fence on whether you want to pick up his Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I was for sure, and I'm more keen to pick it up now that I kind of know what I'm getting into writing humor wise. I did continue on with the Veronica Speedwell series. I read the 5th book, which was A Murderous Relation. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars. At this point, I'm only really interested in the relationship between Veronica and Stoker, her partner. In this series, we follow our main character, Veronica, who's a lepidopterist, and her partner, Stoker, who's kind of like a naturalist almost. Their day job is to help build up this museum for a patron, but they do get involved in like mystery crimes and stuff like that. This one had a more thriller slant on it, which I appreciated the author just like going for a thriller as opposed to like a mystery. The last book had a mystery, but it took a while to really like get into it, so I didn't love the last book for that reason. But this one was just pretty exciting from the get-go. There's a lot of like fun elements in this one. We had Jack the Ripper involved in some way. We also had the royal family involved, and there's also like a sex club at some point. It was just really fun and exciting, super witty. I don't think I'd ever dislike any book in this series. I think they're on the 10th book, so I'm kind of halfway there for this series. Another book that I read for that new releases vlog was The Bone Raiders by Jackson Ford. I gave this one 3.5 stars. In this book, we follow a group of raiders called the Bone Raiders. It's an all-female raider group. I don't think they initially started out as all women, but I think it's like 5 or 6 of them, and they're the only ones left from their crew. In this area called the Tapestry, there is a new Khan who is trying to consolidate power and force people to move to his big city and forcing men to join his army, and that leaves very little resources for our Bone Raiders to raid. It's interesting to follow a character or characters that are like morally like not good, like raiding is bad. One of our main characters decides, in order to kind of fight back against the Khan, that they should learn how to ride these giant fire-breathing lizards called Arutan, and that's kind of what our story is. I picked this up because I thought it was going to be really like action-packed, like fun, kind of witty. It gave me like witty vibes, and it was funny at least. A big part of this book though was the build up into riding these lizards, which I do appreciate the like how realistic that was. You can't just get on the back of a giant fire-breathing lizard that hasn't been domesticated and like expect it to go well. So like it is realistic, I guess, in that sense, but it just wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. I think the last part was really fun, and if I had that excitement throughout the rest of the book, I would have liked it a bit more. But I do like a few of the characters. There's one character who's an older woman, I think she's like 50 or 60, who I thought was really funny. There's like 2 different sapphic relationships. I'm not saying they're like fantastic, but there's a variety of sapphic relationships in here. It was fun. I do think that the series came out, or the sequel came out recently. I don't know if I'll pick it up, at least physically. I could borrow it from a library, and I have heard that it's a bit darker in tone than this one. This one was actually kind of witty. I think people compared it to Nicholas Eames's Kings of the Wild in terms of humor. I cannot validate that myself, but this is a bit lighthearted and fun. And the last book that I want to talk about was also part of that new releases vlog, and this is the only book that I actually do dislike. All these other books I could have recommended to a specific reader if I knew their tastes, but this one was just not for me. I don't think that you're missing out if you never pick this up, but that is Graceless Heart by Isabel Ibanez. This is such a beautiful fairy loot edition that is going to get unhauled eventually. I will do an unhaul soon probably, but in this book we follow our main character Ravenna, whose brother has been captured because he's a rebel, and he took part in this rebellion against Lorenzo de Medici, and she joins this sculpture competition where if she wins, she gets a boon, and she's obviously going to ask for her brother to be set free. And she does win this competition, and she sets her brother free. This all happens so early on in the book. I'm not spoiling anything. I thought the sculptor competition was going to last much more into the book. It doesn't. It's like the introduction of the book. One of the things that she does to kind of win this competition is she puts a moonstone into the sculpture, and moonstones have magical properties and only witches or fae could handle them, so she kind of outs herself to be a witch, and having magic is kind of something to be shunned. The Pope in this world is very, very much against magic, so they're kind of prosecuted in a way, except in Florence. People in Florence can, I guess, use magic willingly if they have it, and the family that was hosting this sculpture competition that Ravenna won sees that she has magic, and they essentially kidnap her or force her to come back with them to Florence so that she can be their sculptress. And we kind of find out why they want her specifically. It has to do with her magic, and that's kind of where our story starts. I thought was supposed to be political intrigue, and there's like elements of that throughout the story. We have big players like Lorenzo de Medici. We have this elusive magical family that Ravenna is now being held hostage by. We obviously have the Pope. I think there's like a brief mention of the Holy Roman Emperor. So I thought this was going to be politically heavy, and I think it wanted to be, but the romance took up a lot of this book and I didn't really like it. Our main character is young and naive, so that could explain some of her choices, but her decision making was odd and it could have blown up in her face, but things just worked out in her favor anyways, so it didn't feel like the stakes were ever high. The romance was like fine, I guess. I wasn't super in love with it either way, so the fact that so much of the book was focused on the romance and I came away feeling whatever about it just felt like a waste of time, which I never like saying that about a book, but all this emphasis on the romance for it to just be like okay is not super great to read. Again, the politics weren't fantastic. The only thing that I really liked about this was that it was set in Florence for the most part during the Renaissance, and that is so beautiful to read setting wise, but it's not like the author created the Renaissance, so she doesn't really get credit for that either, but she does describe it well, I have to say. I ended up giving this 2 stars. It really isn't my cup of tea. Oh, this is adult. There is spicy scenes, but it does read very young. This is like the epitome of when people used to say on TikTok, like, I want to read an adult fantasy book that reads like YA, like young writing for adults. And this is that. If you like that, then you might like this, but I would have liked a bit different writing to pair with this political plot, but that's just me. I have not heard the best things about Isabel Ibanez's other books, so maybe she might not be the author for me. But again, I gave this 2 stars and I did vlog it as well. So if you want more of my negative thoughts, which I do have a lot of, just like more minor things, go watch that vlog. But this is everything that I read during the month of May. For the most part, I think I had a good reading month with the exception of that one last book. I am so glad that I found a 5-star read and my favorite book of the year. But let me know what you read during the month of May. Have you read any of these books? Have you liked them, disliked them? What was your favorite book this month? But feel free to talk to me down below in the comments about anything that I've talked about. I would like to hear anything that you have to say. I will also link my social medias down below as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. If you don't know what to say, you can just leave an emoji. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.